Okay. We've officially started. So I want to thank you guys for coming in this afternoon. You're going to get special attention. You're smaller than the group that was here this morning, but we're going to cover all the same material. Please interrupt me. Feel free to interrupt me at any time whatsoever, so that if you have any questions, that I can answer that. I've got a couple of decks that I'm going through, a couple of things that are sort of organizing what I'm going to say, and introduce this whole process, this whole battle app concept and process, and what you guys have to do. So maybe I'll just start by sharing my screen here. So I'm going to share. Actually. There, my whole screen. So what I just want to introduce first is the schedule. Come on. There we are. No, that's not what I want. Sorry. That's what I want. So we're starting this process off. There we go. Let that person in. So we're starting this process off where I'm trying to make this as open and accessible to everyone as possible. So basically, the only two parts you have to do are attend a session today, which you guys are all doing right now, and then give me your final submission on the 23rd. Okay. I will have classes and sessions in the middle over the next 2 weeks. As I just said, maybe that they're going to be available live here and streamed and recorded online. So one of the issues that within the university setting we have is scheduling. People have things going on and they've got classes and they've got bus schedules and the whole bit. So that's why I'm doing this session twice today, just to give enough time for as many people to come in and engage this and start in this process as possible. So the schedule that I've tentatively set out that I have up on screen here, today is the 9th, so we're doing session now. So on Thursday of this week at 11:30, I'll have another session, more content specifically on, on designing your app and building your app. And similarly on the 16th at 11:30, so next Tuesday. Again, Thursday next week, we'll do it again. And finally, the 23rd, I'll have another session on the 23rd. Okay. So the full schedule will look like that, but all you have to do to take part, because again, you may be busy or other class schedules, that's fine. I just want to give everyone the opportunity to take part. You got to start today, get the workbook I'm going to provide. We're going to fill out a workbook, or you're going to fill out your workbook. Along the way, I'm going to provide help doing that over the next couple of weeks. And then on the 23rd, you're going to email it to me. Okay. So that's what the schedule for this will look like. Okay. So in an effort to try to make this as open as possible. Any questions on that bit yet? Pretty simple so far. Gentlemen online, I've got a couple people there. Good. I've got 3 people online. That's really good. Thank you for coming in. Okay, with that said, I got about an hour. I'm going to try to launch this. Come on in. Come on in.
Sorry for being late.
You are perfectly on time.
Thank you.
Have a seat. So we're going to dive right into it, because I am going to try to wrap this up in an hour. I can go on forever. Don't get me started, because I'll talk forever. But we should be able to wrap this up in about an hour. I went a little over an hour this morning. So what I'll do here is, again, we'll just jump into the screen sharing.
Well, I can see Ankit over there.
You can see Ankit, yes.
Yeah.
I apologize for that.
No, that's all right.
If I do that, will that let me do this? There we go. Okay, good. So we're starting this all off. And again, please feel free to ask me any questions. My name is Todd Graham. Most of us have met, if only briefly, but we've met. My email is todd_graham@cbu.ca. So if you have any questions at any point in time about this process, just email me. Okay. So battle apps. What's a battle? What's a battle app? So here's how this works. First of all, it's a competition, so I'm going to give away some money. Okay, V's already asked about some money. V's going to throw some more money in the pot, and we're going to spread it around. So there's going to be a prize for the best submission in this competition. We begin today. We finish on the 23rd. So you'll submit by midnight on the 23rd. And that'll be an email of the workbook that we're going to quickly look at. All you got to do is just submit the workbook. No code needed. This is not for programming. This is the initial ideation part, the initial development part of an app. What happens a lot, in fact, is like code guys say, oh, I want to write an app, and they start coding without actually even really figuring out what they want to do. Well, what we're doing here is we're doing the figuring out part now, okay? And we'll do everything right up until the point where, yeah, you would start to write some code. Now, that's not the purpose of this. We're not going to do that. Maybe if we get some really good submissions, maybe that might be an eventuality in a second version of something, okay? I'm going to leave that open. But for now, this is all about ideation and understanding the process of how you bring something like this to life. There is a project workbook. As I mentioned, we'll look at that in a moment. You can attend online and in class. So as I just described, trying to make this as open as possible. And we're going to be recording the session so that if you were to miss one or not be able to attend online, you can sort of download and stream it and have a look at it. And of course, the best idea wins a prize. Surprise, surprise.
Okay, there are so many best ideas.
Come up with the best idea. Right?
Yeah.
You can do that. Yeah. You all will win coming out of this because you'll all have gone through this process and learned a lot and developed something. And whether you get money out of this contest, people have taken part in processes like this and used this to go on to another competition or incubator or process, and that's growing into it. So this is definitely the start of a process. And that's actually why I'm doing it this way, is my philosophy is start in the basement, right? You don't build a house from the roof down. So I'm trying to start in the basement. And that basement is, well, I have an idea. Well, what's a good idea, right? How do those things get developed? Like, what is that process? And in fact, I'm going to just actually quickly, no, I don't have to do that. That's fine. So the best idea wins a prize. I mentioned the workbook. And I will get to that in a bit, but this is the workbook, okay? And you'll download that online. It's a fillable PDF. So it's basically question and answer for the most part, okay? First page, fill in your personal information. Then it says, what is the problem your customer has? Just tell me what that is. And it's a fillable field. And the fields are restricted, 240 characters for these small fields, because I want this to be concise and to the point, okay? We don't need novels of information. I just want to know, give me the facts, give me the information. What's the benefit of your product or service, okay? Customer problem statement, describe your end user, okay? Are there other similar apps available, okay? How do you make money from this, okay? How does it get paid for, okay? And an overview of each session. So I've got a couple of sessions outlined there and what we're going to do. And it goes through that question and answer format. You describe your customer, like the person's going to use this. Who are they? What do they look like? What kind of job do they have? What kind of money do they make? What language do they speak? Where do they live? Okay. And you sort of round out, tell me who really is this person, right? All fillable. And there's a few, I'm going to call them stock templates for some of the standard process-oriented sort of business development theories. So we got like a little design thinking template there. We got a lean canvas template. We've got a story branding model template. I'm going to briefly touch on these. I'm not going to beat them to death. Okay. I just want to provide them and give you an opportunity to sort of consider some of these things. Please go online. There's all kinds of great information about story branding and design thinking and lean and all that stuff. So I'll be touching on those and giving you an opportunity to sort of explore more. A couple of blank templates, like what does your app look like physically? Here's a phone illustration. What does it look like? Okay, and in fact, one of the things we're going to be working with online, and I'll bring it up later, but at the back part of this, there's a couple of resource pages. So we're going to be working with a wireframing, online free wireframing software called Mockups. And you literally just, it's got templates for drawing out your application. Pick a button and drop it down, and pick a text field or a picture field or a video field, and click, 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 like Lego blocks. Okay? How does it look? Okay? So this is available online, and we'll look at the Teams site in a sec. This is available online, and you'll just basically download this document. So at the very least, all you got to do is download the document, work it out, submit it on the 23rd. And maybe you might win some money. Or you might have the next great business idea, the next great app idea. You like that idea, don't you? Yeah. Okay. So I'll show you the site in a second. Any questions at this point? Any questions? No? Okay. A couple more people came in. I'm just going to give you guys a sheet here each. If you could, yeah, there's a sheet right there, so you can. Okay, and that's just to get your information to make sure I have you. I'll collect those at the end.
So the CBU email ID, right?
Yeah, that will work just great. Yeah. So that's good. That's really good. So here's what the site looks like. You guys can see it online. You guys can see this online, right? Ankit, you're good?
Yes, yep, we can.
So just want to check. So so this is the Teams site, and you'll see in the resources is your name _ Battle App 3.0, your name. So when you submit it, you're going to replace your name with your name and email that back to me. Okay, so you'll be able to download that resource, you'll be able to download this document, okay, from there, and you'll be able to send that in on the 23rd. There's another Word file there, which is basically the email I sent out on Friday, and then a link to my name, and then a link to these decks. Okay, so these decks that are online, you can have access to them.
Sorry, I didn't get that the PDF. Where did we download
Well, you didn't yet, but I'm specifically going to show you in a little bit.
Okay.
When I get your contact, you may or may not have already been registered.
Okay.
If you weren't, you wouldn't have received the link yet.
Okay.
But when I collect the sheet, I'll make sure that you have the link. Okay.
The name, sorry, please go ahead.
Well, it's a Teams, so it's Microsoft Teams, and it's a class in Teams. It's Battle Apps, and like I said, it's got just these resources on it. Okay. So you might already have the link. If you don't, I'll send it to you after we're finished here. And if for some reason you still don't get it, for some reason, just come in and I'll email it to you directly.
And
Okay.
the app name comes after it. Do we have to put it?
On that sheet, it says app name. If you know what you want to do, just give me a name. If not, that's fine too. That's sort of the soft part of this. Some people know that they want to do, some people don't know at this point.
Can I do a tentative name?
Yep. Yep. Just make sure when you do it tentatively, you spell it properly.
Okay.
That's a joke.
Yes. Can I have a pen?
A pen, I don't know. That's my favorite pen right here. That's my favorite pen. I've got my name on it in micro printing, so I can identify it.
Do you lose a lot of pens?
I do lose a lot of pens.
I'm losing the marbles too.
Mine are gone long ago. So, okay, any other questions so far before we get into? Okay. And I do want to keep you guys only for the hour if I can. So what is an app? So today is how does this competition work, and what are the broad, general directions that I'd like you to go in, okay? So apps solve problems. You hear that, like, take business course. Oh, you got to solve the problem. What's the problem? Apps to solve problems, okay? They do something for somebody. More interesting enough, an app does something hard to do in the real world, in the analog world. But that is easy for a computer. Okay, so if I asked you what 3092 times 147 divided by 8 was, I don't know what that is. But a computer can do it like that. Okay. If I was to visit somewhere and it was like, geez, I'm standing in this hotel in a city that I've never been in before. I wonder where restaurants are. I don't know that, right? But an app, with the click of a button and of course the appropriate program, it knows where everything is. It applies maps. It applies logic. It does the hard things. Okay, so the apps, funny enough, they excel at doing hard stuff. They're actually pretty lousy at doing easy stuff, if I could put it that way. Okay, they like challenges. Okay, so what does the customer need done? We talk about the pain. What's the pain point? Okay, what's the pain? What's the problem? Ideation. Like what? How do you find that? Where do you dig deep and see what the real issue is? They say, you know, you don't sell steak, you sell the sizzle. Okay, and that means that, okay, great, you want to sell a meal and you want to sell a good meal, but you got to have people like long for the taste, the sizzle, the sizzle of the steak, or you know, the smell of the core need there, the core desire is one thing, is the thing you have to sort of extract from the problem. Okay. Uber. Well, Uber basically solves the problem of that was already solved with taxis. But what did it really do? Like, what are the problems with taxis? Anyone ever take a taxi in a city? You probably all have been to much
Wait
bigger
time
cities.
And uncertainty when it will be arriving. Yeah.
You're like, I've been in New York,
Yeah.
waving, right?
And then you don't know which taxi is yours. If you are at the taxi stand, there are multiple taxis, but you don't know which one.
You've just hit 3-4 pain points,
Yeah.
right? Is that my cab? No.
Yeah.
Is it coming? I don't know when.
And you know the exact price. Yeah.
How much is it going to cost me?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Maybe you've got a comfort level with, because Uber gives you information about the driver. Maybe that's actually superior to having, I mean, taxis do that too, they get licensed cabs and the whole bit, but you've hit on a couple of pain points there. Like taxi solves a problem to a certain level, but it leaves other problems exposed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Uber solved a lot of those.
Yeah. Even if I'm sitting at home and my niece is traveling, I can track her on the app.
Security, yes, yeah. And I don't know if people online can hear, but you've said you've told me a couple of things about, you know, Uber and its use, and yeah, there's definitely all kinds of what is there that really is the problem, and then who's going to buy it, right? And maybe it's free, maybe it's whatever. But who's going to be the customer? Like, who are they? Where do they live? Okay, what kind of music do they like? What's their favorite TV show? You know, and then you go income, age, and gender, and all that stuff is there too. But you really do want to be able to identify: are you the customer? Like, do you think you are the customer? You're an example of. Okay? We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute too. How do I get to them? Right now, everyone automatically says, "Oh, well, social media," but that's not really an answer, right? Social media, it's like, you know, saying that, well, I'm going to go out in the street and yell. You know, like social media breaks down and is used in so many different ways, right? At the top, you've got organic and you've got paid. Are you going to pay for it? Like, are you going to pay and that costs money, right? Organic. Oh, I'm going to do it organically. Yeah, you're going to share it with your 8 friends online, and where does it go from there, right? So yeah, social media exists. Social media is a channel, but it's not a solution. It's, you know, it opens up a whole range of other things, right? So, you know, apps solve these hard problems, or things that we actually would find hard to do, but actually because of the technology, it's easy for them. And our job is to identify that thing that really does not work very well for a certain person, and you find that person, okay? And you find out how many of those people are there, and is this collectively something that they might have an interest in. So what kind of ideas make good apps? Big, hairy, scary ideas make good apps. Stuff that you look at and go, that's not possible. Okay. Those kinds of things are the things that computers are actually pretty good at doing. Mobile technology is good at, it's got all these things built in there, map and GPS and cameras, and it's just, it's got a lot of capability and a lot of things that you can leverage. So the bigger the idea, the better. And once you got a big idea, make it bigger again. Like this, these things work at scale. Apps don't really work super well at a small scale. And the reason they don't is because it takes just as much time to make a small app or an app for a small group of people as it is an app for a big group of people. It's the same amount of work. So when you look again at size and scale, and I say this all the time, Canada is a small market, 38 million people. It's a rounding error in the world population. How many people in India? 1.4 billion? Yeah, how many people in China? 1.4 billion.
The whole Nova Scotia's population in one province itself, Delhi.
It's not a city in India. Yeah. Nova Scotia is not a city in India, right? So, and I'm not saying that you can't make apps for small groups of people or relatively, like you wouldn't make one for 10 or 50 people. Like, just go do whatever you need to do. Don't build an app because it would take more time. But there are what they like there are linear channels. There are channels that you could build an app for that are tailored to a smaller group of people. But in that case, they really solve a problem. Like they enable something that was just not possible for that group. Like they have a very, very strong, pain or need base, right, for smaller groups of people.
What about US? Like US and Canada also?
US is a good market, 380 million people. Yeah, you're getting there, right? And it's not that you couldn't make a Canadian app. There are Canadian apps, right? But my point in saying this is, most specifically, like just don't limit what you're doing. Okay, if you got an idea, just jump it out a few more spaces because it probably, if it works in Nova Scotia, it probably works in Canada, and if it works in Canada, it probably works in the United States, and if it works in the United States, it probably works, Think about this, how many people, and you can do the math on that. So you do these, I call them these black box experiments, so you make I have an app for guitar playing. I got a guitar tuning app. How many people play guitar? That you can find that out. That's possible, right? You can count those numbers. So those numbers, that's your total addressable. That's like how many people could possibly benefit from this? Your total addressable market. And like I said, it takes just as much time to develop an app for 500 people as 500 million. Okay. So this is the scope. Like, show me some big, grand ideas. That's what I want to see here is something beautifully, elegantly humongous. Okay. The point of all of this is to ignite some of your imaginations. That's why we're not coding this. Like I definitively did not want to do a coding exercise. I wanted to bring people in to say, dream, imagine, think big, and then let's figure out how that could work. And if it does work, maybe we can find a way to actually turn it into actual code and actual applications. And maybe that's the second part of this. I don't know. No promises. But show us something magnificent. Show us something grandiose. So what wins? A big idea. Think of a really great idea or a fantastically amazing small idea, but it has to be ingenious, unique. And how does that solve a problem? Like what is the problem and how does it actually solve it? Well, how does it make it better? Are you the customer? Now that's a double-sided issue there. So if you're building this based on your interest, completely valid, completely perfectly valid. And you may represent the best of your example of a customer. You also may sort of cloister yourself in a bit of an idea castle sort of thing, and you don't see how that applies to the rest of the world. Maybe your version of what works is not exactly the same as how everyone else would like to see it, but you're so stuck on your own application of it that you kind of don't see the rest of the world.
What if the idea is not big? It's like other apps, but the quality is
That could work too. Yeah.
more promotions.
Yeah. I just, I, I'd like to see these things not for really small groups. You know, I was looking at a company the other day, and they were talking about what they were doing, blah 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 blah, and they're really growing, and it's busy, and blah 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 blah. And I did some other digging, and they have 68 customers, but they're really busy, and that's great. Like, but to me, helping 68 people is not as good as helping 68,000 people. Okay, so. And don't think that you're limited because, oh, who am I and I've never done this before, and you know, like, and we're going to go through an example of that in a minute, a couple examples of apps and how they developed. Like, don't think that you cannot do this, because you completely can do this, and we'll see an example of that in a minute. What does it look like? And I've given you templates to draw it out. We're going to use a wireframing tool, you know, to help draw it out. I'm encouraging you to very concisely describe what you're doing. Okay, so what does it look like? What does it? You really need to do the research and the background and the thinking about how this is going to look. Here's the way the screen looks. This app has 4 different screens, right? 4 different versions, and it goes from A to B to screen C to screen D, and then back again for something else. Okay. Think of your favorite apps, your favorite programs. Okay. Look them on your phone. Pull them apart a little bit. Think about why you like them. Okay. Think about how many screens are there. You know, one of the apps I use a lot is Kijiji. Does anyone use Kijiji? Okay. Kijiji's actually changed its interface a couple of times, and I think it's gotten worse, actually, quite honestly, from where it was maybe 5-6 years ago. But if I think of Kijiji, they've got a home screen of sorts, okay, and then you hit your category. So I look at motorcycles and boats, so I click on motorcycles, and it comes up with and I've got another. It's a weird way I got to now pick my province, but it does that. So I've got the main screen. I pick my category, it's another screen, and then I got the results of that category. 3 screens. Okay. I pick an item, oh, I like this motorcycle or this boat, I'm on my 4th screen. Okay. A to B to C to D. Okay. Don't like that, back to C. Don't like that, back to B. So, you know, Kijiji goes in, out, 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 out. In, out, 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 out. General to specific, right? Some apps go in and branch. Okay. Look at your favorite apps. Kind of draw them out. Take a little napkin or piece of paper and just say, okay, there's the home screen, square, home, flowchart. Okay, next screen, you know, search screen, next screen. And that's what we're going to do when we wireframe this and we flowchart this. We're going to come up with a very simple diagram of, you know, we're going to simplify the flow of your application. How does it work? Like I said, we're going to wireframe it. And ultimately with that, you will ultimately have built the application without writing any code. The code then becomes a detail. Okay, hire a nerd to do that. Okay.
What you mean is the visualization of that?
Yes. Yep, completely. Yeah. And that is both the hardest thing you will ever do and a very easy thing. Why is it easy? It's just some squares and a flowchart. Okay. The hardest thing, oh, how does that really work? Like, is this the most efficient way I could do this? Is this the information that should be on this screen at this given point in time? Like I said, Kijiji's gone through multiple iterations. They've changed it a certain way to benefit certain customers, I guess. I kind of don't like it as much, but I still find it functional. I still use it. You know, my guitar tuning app. I launch it, boom, it comes up with a screen, and it's got the 6 strings on it. I click a string, and I can tune my guitar. It's got 1 screen.
That's your app?
Well, I didn't. No, I use it.
Oh.
I use it. Yeah, I use it. So I got a half a dozen or a dozen apps I use regularly, and I'm accustomed to how they work, and they all still have a slightly different map, but they all provide the functionality that I need. Okay, what is a problem? And I can apply this to any business application. This is like general business 101, okay? You want to start a dry cleaner. You want to start a restaurant. You want to start a manufacturing plant for car parts. Like, you know, everything starts with an idea. So, and this is what I face every day. You know, students come into me with an idea, or students come in with a problem or something they want to talk about, and they come in and they make a statement, right? Well, everybody wants this, and I'm like, okay, really? How do you know? How do you know that? Well, they do, but how do you know that? Okay. So it starts up. People start off with what they think they know. Okay, but just because you think you know it doesn't mean it's real. Just because you said it doesn't mean it's true, right? So you start with what you think you know, but then you got to say, well, do you really know it? So there's what you think you know, and then there's what you know, or you think you know.
It's very deep.
What's that? Oh, we're getting deeper. Just wait. I haven't stopped. You know. And then you get to what you don't know. So there's what you think you know, what you know, and then what you don't know. And what you don't know becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay? So then you kind of start, well, I better do some research. Now, a lot of people never get to the research. They just get to stage one. Well, I think I know this.
So what if you don't know what you know?
We're getting there. We're getting there too. And I'm thinking, I like quotes. I think it might have been General Petraeus in the Gulf War, and they were talking about they were doing this news briefing, and he had known unknowns and unknown unknowns. There's things they know they don't know, and there's things they don't even know they don't know. Right? So there's what you think you know, what you know, what you don't know. And then you start researching it, and you finally get to the point, after a lot of hard work, mind you get to the point that you finally realize you don't know anything. But a magic thing happens there, if you ever get there. Okay? Because once you realize you don't know, then you start to learn. You see all that stuff before? Nobody's learning anything, right? It takes an actual special person to get to the point where they can say, I don't know, but I'm going to learn. Okay? It's the Socratic formula. Socrates, Greece, 400 BC, would walk around town saying, I don't know, and he would just ask questions. And people are really mad at him. They killed him, actually, but they were really mad at him because he would just keep asking questions. People would say, well, those Carthaginians, they're such and such and such. Oh, really? Why? Well, because of such and such. Oh, really? Well, when did they do that? Well, they just did. Like, there's what you know, what you think you know, what you don't know, and eventually you pass through all of that and you get open enough to learn. Okay. Another short story, and if I can remember the names correctly, you might have heard of Keynesian economics. Keynes created his economic theory in the 1930s, and basically the rest of the 20th century was more or less modeled after this Keynesian economic theory. But the interesting thing was John Maynard Keynes was not the most famous economist in the world in the 1930s. Okay, Irving Fisher was. Now you probably have never heard of Irving Fisher. Anyone ever heard of Irving Fisher?
No, but I don't remember.
Okay, but Irving Fisher was the most famous economist in the mid 20th century. Okay, Irving Fisher and John Maynard Keynes were like number one and number two. Okay, so they both had this massive, great, like things were going great. The Roaring '20s and money was flowing, and these guys were like, there was no TV at the time, but they were like the go-to guys. They would be your pet experts on TV these days. And then the Depression came along, and what happened to the two of them?
Their theory called effect.
Not that I know of. Could be. The Great Depression comes along, and they are both financially destroyed. They were experts. Another famous saying I like is, experts built the Titanic. So these guys were the two top economic theorists in the world just prior to the Great Depression, and neither one of them saw the Depression coming, and they were both bankrupted. Okay? Irving Fisher was very upset, and he couldn't understand why the world did not did not follow his model and his theory. Okay. John Maynard Keynes went, oh, I guess I was wrong. And he changed his mind. Now there's the key point, changing your mind, having the openness to change your mind. Okay. And that's the reason you've never heard of Irving Fisher. And everyone remembers John Maynard Keynes. He was open enough to accept new information when it was provided. Okay. The other phrase I use is getting married to an idea. Don't get married to an idea. It will always break your heart. Okay. Be open, okay, to learning, okay, and changing your mind if need be. So describing your app. Anyone ever hear this before? I'm sorry for the long letter. I didn't have time to write you a short one. No one ever heard that? And I should have looked it up at the break because I can't remember who said it either. Some old dead white guy, like from England 120 years ago. Might have been Keats or Yeats or anyway, one of them. So he's writing a letter to his sister and he literally starts off, I'm sorry for the long letter. I didn't have time to write you a short one.
Ironic.
What's that?
Ironic.
Yeah, but it might be ironic, but let's think about that. Here's my situation. I take a class, right? And I do this all the time. You're shaking your head like I don't take classes, or I'm taking a class. I get assigned a 15-page assignment, right? 15-page paper. So I start it. I write the first 30 pages of the 15-page paper. Okay? That's easy. I just got to keep going, right? I ramble on about stuff and put things in there, just don't relate. And then I got to, at that point I go, I got enough. Now I got to turn it into 15 pages. That's the hard part, right? Saying something succinctly, meaningfully, being able to get your idea across simply, that's the skill, okay? I get students come in all the time and they got an idea and it's just ramble, on, and it's just more words, and it's just words, extra words, too many words. What do you really want to do? Can you say that in a sentence? You've heard the phrase, not elephant pitch, elevator pitch. Maybe there is an elephant pitch, I don't know. Less is more, okay? You don't really know your idea until you're able to drill down to its essence, to its core, okay? And it's fine as you go through a process. I mean, you're describing what you want to do, and you've got, you're actually working it out yourself. As you're describing it to someone, you're just making it up. Like, oh yeah, like, it's going to do this, and it's going to also do this. Well, it's when you synthesize that all down to a core that you get to a really good description. That takes a lot of effort and time. Okay. Less is more. I recommend using tools like similes, analogies, metaphors. Okay, and you may recognize these. So, you say things are like, or you reference other things. Okay. So the movie Lion King. Some of you, I give these presentations all the time. Lion King. Okay. So Lion King was described, was pitched to the studio. Okay. It was pitched as Bambi in Africa. Now this doesn't necessarily work completely generationally or across some cultures, but Disney released a famous movie in the 1942, Bambi. Okay. Famous movie. Everyone saw it. Everyone cried when Bambi's mother got shot. Okay. Bambi was a deer. Mom got shot by a hunter. Bambi is off on his own. He picks up a friend, Thumper. Thumper is the bunny rabbit. Okay. And eventually Bambi grows up and comes back to save all the animals in the forest from a fire. Right? Lion King. Just take Bambi and replace him with a lion. Take Thumper and replace Thumper with a warthog. Okay? So for someone in Hollywood, and again, like generally culturally, anyone over the age of 40, maybe that puts me in a different category than you young folk, but they just know what Bambi is. They get it, right? And you look in that light, it's like, oh, yeah, exactly. Like it's Bambi in Africa. Okay. Another trick someone told me years ago, and I use this all the time. They said if you want to describe something to somebody, this works in North America. I've discovered it's not necessarily universal. If you want to describe something, use a car. Explain it in reference to a car. North America, we have a car culture. We understand car culture. You know, we understand, stomping on the pedal. We understand shifting gears. We understand U-turns. Like, we understand the vernacular of an automobile and can use that as a metaphor for other activities. About my own version of that, I invented trademark. If you're in Canada, you describe things in terms of hockey. Canadians understand hockey, right? You're going to dig in the corner for the puck, right? You're going to rag the puck. You're going to shoot it down the ice. Like there's phrases, these things. Oh, well, I know what that means. You know, rag the puck means I'm just going to frig around over here and not do much. Okay. Canadians get it. Maybe in India, it's cricket. Like you use that, the metaphor. Like there's something that happens, a phraseology, a terminology in whatever is culturally appropriate that you say and, oh, everyone just gets. Okay. Here's one for you. Handy. Handy's an app. Does anyone know what it does? No? Okay. Handy is Uber for house cleaning. Do you know what they do now? Pretty clear, right? You know what Uber is, I'm assuming, okay? Okay, you push a button, guy shows up in a car, okay? Uber for house cleaning. You push a button, someone shows up and cleans your house. Okay, so metaphors and similes are beneficial in describing things to people. So here's, within this deck, here's this one last example. You might have seen this already. Okay, first of all, I'm old. So these are older movies. These are movie analogies. So back in the 80s, there's a movie written by Stephen King, a book by Stephen King, turned into a movie, Stand By Me. You ever seen it? You're nodding your head. Okay, Stand By Me. So it's a story of 4 boys coming of age. They take a journey on a summer's afternoon, walking down a railroad track. Okay, and they're trying to avoid their older brothers. They're like a gang that want to beat them up, and they're like the young kids in the group, and they're, trying to find their place in the world and kind of, bonding, right? So if you're in Hollywood, you would understand. This is a huge movie. Jaws. Most of you have probably heard of or seen Jaws. Big sherry shark eats people. Don't need much more explanation. Now this one is probably the most secure, the most obscure, but at the time it was a big movie, Poltergeist. And basically the little girl is sucked into the TV. Okay, so parents are trying to get the girl stuck in the TV, in this ghost world inside the TV. So this was the pitch used to describe a current show, okay, today. So they went into the producer's office or the studio's office and says, here's my idea. It's Stand By Me meets Poltergeist meets Jaws. Oh, I get it. So what's the movie? Anyone? Stranger Things. Yeah. Now, I've actually since figured out this works in reverse because most of you probably know what Stranger Things is, but you may not know what Stand By Me is. Well, the 4 boys is the 4 boys in Stand By Me, right? The girl gets sucked into the TV, but what happens to Will? He gets sucked into the Upside Down. Same thing, right? And big scary monster comes to eat you. Jaws. Right? Like, so you don't know what Poltergeist is, but you now know what Poltergeist is because of Stranger Things. Okay? You don't know what Stand By Me is, but you know what Stand By Me is because, So Stand By Me was a movie in the 80s about the 50s, and Stranger Things is a show in the 10s about the 80s. Same thing, right? So finding references like that help sell your idea to other people.
I think nowadays people reference in terms of using like Walmart or Twilight. For example, it was celebrities.
Yep.
they look like Justin Bieber, it would say, oh, this is Justin Bieber warmer.
Yep.
Or,
Yep.
no,
So the guys online can't hear what you said, but you said that Twilight is like, uses the Justin Bieber as like a warmer version of Justin Bieber, something like
if
that?
somebody like look like Justin Bieber on TikTok, it's like, oh, you are
Okay.
Justin Bieber warmer version. Or
Yeah.
any movies like have like a storyline, like Twilight is like a
Yeah.
Twilight like
Yeah.
version.
So in 20 years, someone will walk into a Hollywood office and they'll say, you know, it's Twilight meets Hunger Games with Justin Bieber. Like, and they'll get it. Right? Yeah. You just invented a television show. Right there. You know, Twilight meets Hunger Games. So it's vampires fighting in the celestial city. Yeah. Yeah. So whether it's hockey or whether it's a car or whether it's a cultural reference or a movie reference or a video game reference or something that, you know, like you can use these tools, these devices to help sell, describe your idea to another person. And in fact, to conceptualize, fully form the idea yourself. Okay. Any other questions online? Is any questions online? I'll give you guys a chance to chime in. No? Okay. Oh, we got someone else, Adam. Come on in, Adam. How are you?
Very well. Sorry I'm late. I just now got your response.
Well, this is recorded so you can download the rest of it later on. How's that sound?
Excellent.
Perfect. Okay. Moving on. So we're going to share this again. And we're going to move on to my next deck. So as I said, these links to these decks are all on the Teams thing, so you guys can look at them later on. So I'm going to talk about apps and startups and just some of the background there, just to give you some scope of the mindset I'd like you to be in terms of thinking about what your ideas may be or what they could be. And I mentioned before that I was going to reference, Airbnb. Well, we're referencing Airbnb. So this email, it's actually a pretty cool email. Not just because it's poorly punctuated and poor grammar and everything, right? But this is the very beginning of a $1 billion company. Joe Gebbia, I'm not sure how that's pronounced. I'll look it up someday. 2007 to Brian. Brian, I thought of a way to make a few bucks. Right? I'm pretty sure Thomas Edison sat down one day and said, you know, I just thought of a way I could make a few bucks. I'm pretty sure Alexander Graham Bell woke up one day, you know what, I just had an idea to make a few bucks. Okay? I love the honesty in that statement. Dash, turning our place into, quote, designer's bed and breakfast, end quote. Dash, offering young designers who come to town a place to crash during the 4-day event. There was a designers conference heading into, I think it was San Francisco or wherever. And basically, yeah, we're going to complete with wireless internet, big deal, 2007, remember, wireless internet, a small desk, sleeping mat, and breakfast each morning. Ha! He nailed it. Right? That's the beginning of a multi-billion-dollar business. So how did that work? How did that actually work? Well, they come up with this idea. Two people come up with this idea. They need some loot. Who here needs some loot? Who here needs some money? You don't need money? There, put your hand up then. Come on. So they needed some loot. They needed some cash. Steve Jobs said the exact same thing. You know, we need some loot. So they said we're going to rent out 3 air mattresses. Imagine, air mattresses, Airbnb, air mattresses, B&B. So they basically get a couple of people to show up, and they get 3 people that show up. Okay. And it kind of worked. They made some money, $80 a head. They made $80 a head. So it's like, let's try to do this again. So they spooled it up again for another conference, South by Southwest. Nah, not really, 2 people. Okay. So they're a little down the mouth, and they're thinking, well, what else can we do? So they come up with an idea for, they kind of pivot. They do a pivot quickly over to roommates. So Airbnb, but with roommates. So you got roommates for school or roommates for whatever. And they tried that for a while, but then it was like, there's people doing that already. And so they pivoted back to the whole air mattress idea. I'm going to go ahead for them quickly. And of course, like everyone else would do to start a travel accommodations business, they started selling cereal. Okay? Interesting part of the mythology. These companies have mythologies. So it was 2008, the presidential elections were on, so they said, let's make some promotional cereal for Obama O's and Cap'n McCain, John McCain, and we'll sell those and make some money. And they did. I think they made $40,000. Go back here to, so 40 grand, and they attracted some attention. Like, it was a very kind of strange thing to do, and they were looking for investment and weren't really finding much luck. But producing the cereal basically attracted $20,000 in angel investing, if I could call it that. And basically they made some money from the cereal and covered some debt and did some stuff. So with that, the next step was, well, let's go to New York. Let's go try this in New York. So they launched their service in New York. They're into it for a few weeks, and it's like, they're making $100 a week. It's not going anywhere. So they kind of pivot again. It's like, well, what are we going to do? And they honestly looked, remember, honest. They were honest with themselves. They looked at their listings and they were awful, right? They were dives and slums. So they hired a photographer. The breakthrough for them was they hired a photographer to go and photograph their listings, to photograph their hosts and stage them to look better. And then the next week they made $400. And then the next week they made $800. Okay. And it grew, and they looked for more, more investment, and they didn't get it. So they kind of trudged along until, and here's where, again, like, the internet is a weird thing. The turning point, the ultimate turning point for them was Barry Manilow's drummer rented a house from Airbnb. You know who Barry Manilow is? Okay, like, my mom would like Barry Manilow. Okay, so it wasn't even Barry Manilow stayed at their house. Barry Manilow's drummer stayed at an Airbnb back in like 2008 or 9 or something. Okay, is it on this? Yeah, it is there. Barry Manilow's drummer rents an entire house. Right down here. Yeah. Barry Manilow, in brackets, famous singer. Right? That's. Anyway, well, it made news, right? Like, it was a slow news day, and it made some news, and things picked up, and they got $600,000 in funding after that. And they were off to the races. So, I mean, it literally starts with, I can't pay my rent. Goes through fail, fail, pivot, fail, pivot, pivot, fail, pivot, fail, succeed, right? If you listen to interviews like these guys will give, they're like, well, the real secret is not stopping. And I think there's a lot more secrets than just not stopping. There's some people that I dearly would say, dude, just stop, right? But in their case, like, they kept adjusting what they were doing until it actually worked. They had the convictions of their belief, convictions of their original idea, and it worked for them. Okay, I mean, that's a story. Here's the thing. Now, you think it's Airbnb. It's not. It's Airbed and breakfast. It depends where you put the comma. If you call it Air Bed and Breakfast or Airbed and Breakfast, it depends where the comma goes, right? It actually was Airbed because they were renting mattresses. That was the original idea. And of course, it pivots through, they sort of transitioned from the Airbed to they went from Airbed and Breakfast to Air, as in wireless or easy bed and breakfast, to their current logo. And that's their website from circa, I don't know, 2010 or something, right? Other companies, different stories. So Facebook. You know what a Facebook is? What's Facebook? No, not social media. Okay, good answer. Everyone here would say the same thing. Everyone here. What's a Facebook?
Originally?
Yeah. No, 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 no. No. Did you ever watch an old police movie? You know, from the 70s or 80s or 50s or 20s or something. So somebody gets mugged, right? And they're back at the police station. They're downtown. They're at the police station. And the sergeant comes out with a book full of criminals. That's a Facebook, right? The book with the pictures, like who mugged you, who robbed you. Flip through the pages until these are what they would call the usual suspects. Great movie, by the way. Okay, these are the usual suspects. Pick one. His face is in our book. That's a Facebook. So Facebook started as again the classic .com or the classic computer thing, just like Bill Gates. It starts in a Harvard dorm room. Two guys put together a book of the beautiful people on campus. And it's only for people at Harvard. And that didn't last very long until, Stanford and MIT and everyone else got in. The next thing you know, it goes from Face Mash to the Facebook to Facebook. Like the original idea morphs. Uber is actually two other successful CEOs from previous startups that cashed out. So StumbleUpon, you probably never heard of it. I barely know it existed. Red Swoosh, no idea what they did. But these were two executives that after Airbnb, so this is 2010. Airbnb was 2008. So Airbnb showed the way. Well, let's kind of do the same thing for cabs, for transportation, and they created Uber, right? Two successful people spin off some other idea, but in another sector. YouTube. What did YouTube start as?
It's a platform for video,
Keep going. You just said it a minute ago. Dating. YouTube was a dating site. Okay. If you, again, watch some old movie somewhere, and in the 80s they had these services where they'd give you a stack of like 10 VHS tapes, right? And you go home, you'd watch them, try to find, hi, my name is Brittany, I like ponies, oh, next tape, and put the next tape in, and well, they digitized the idea, and well, we'll just put these videos online, right? YouTube, think about it, dating, YouTube. And it didn't work. It was a lousy dating site, but it was good for other stuff. They pivoted, they spun, they changed direction. Here's one that's interesting. I don't know the whole story. What is it? Here. Vine. Vine. Anyone hear of Vine?
yeah.
What?
Millennials.
It's for millennials.
And they put some music and they have like
No. Well, maybe, sort of. Okay, Vine, and Vine barely registered for me. And what year was it? 2013. I remember it. I remember being the hottest thing for like 6 months and then disappearing. And it was sort of it was one of these corporate sort of stories of tragedy, and like somehow it was super hot, but then it wasn't. Sort of like Cyndi Lauper. Again, cultural reference, went over your heads. Cyndi Lauper was new musician of the year in 1984. That was the kiss of death for her. We never heard from her again. Vine was the hottest application in the summer of 2013, and by October, it was Bodo. I don't know what happened. Basically, they created it was 6-second video clips. Okay, 6 seconds. That's all you're getting. And then they expanded it to like 10 or 12 or 15 or something. But it was TikTok, only it blew up. Like it failed, crashed and burned, dumpster fire.
I think we should add Musically, because I think TikTok, like Musically after Vine, I think Musically is a huge thing.
Oh, and maybe so. Like there no doubt are other iterations of. I'm just using TikTok as because TikTok is obviously right now the 800-pound gorilla, the big name. But Vine could have been TikTok. Now, why wasn't it? I don't know. I lived that period. I barely remember it because it was in and out for so long that it wasn't cool and available long enough for someone uncool to really, I'm sure all the real cool kids in high school were all over it. But Took me a while. It was gone before I figured that out. So there are different trajectories, there are different maps, there's different plans, there's different ways these things flesh out. So why do you want to build an app? Why? Okay. So I'll give you this example. Now I'm going to go back a little bit. I have two examples here, but when I was a kid, picture, 10-year-old Todd with a bowl haircut, right? And really ugly clothes that our parents bought us in the 70s. Like, you guys have no idea. Like, no idea how embarrassing it was. So computers start coming out, home computers. This is an example of a Commodore 64 down here. So home computers come out, and people are going, oh, home computers, like, what can you use them for? We can put recipes on them. Literally, like, that was one of the only things you could use a home computer for. Before the internet, home computers were virtually useless. Okay, recipe card, I'm going to put my recipes on my... Now, let's think about that as an app, a program, an app per minute. Okay, what do I currently use? I use a piece of paper and a pencil. How does that work? Pretty good. It's cheap, easy. We all got paper. We all got pencils, right? It's portable, okay? Durable, okay? Now let's put a recipe on a computer. Can you imagine, like imagine today having this bad boy in your kitchen, next to your refrigerator, next to your stove, right? With all the food that we'd be splashing on it, and you want to make cookies, and you got eggs in this hand, like you're all goopy wet here, and there's like flour and stuff in this hand, and you're like trying to type with your elbow, right? I want the recipe for chocolate chip cookies. No, right? Dumb idea. Okay? Dumb idea. Same thing, different thing, same thing. About that. Grocery list. Okay? You want to make a grocery list app. Well, what do you use now for a grocery list? Well, use a piece of paper and a pencil. Portable, cheap. I don't have to buy the paper. I use the back of an envelope most times. I get mail, I get junk mail, right? I take the junk mail and I write on it. Eggs, milk, butter. Okay? Take a magnet, stick it to the fridge. Right? Later on, write something else on it. Take it to the store. Well, I lose it, I don't care. It was free, valueless, piece of paper. Okay? Versus, I'm going to make an app for that. Well, what do I need for that? Well, I need an $800 electrical device. Okay? And I need all the electricity and power and batteries and Wi-Fi and everything to make it connect to stuff. Right? And oh, by the way, it's already got an app, like a notepad thing. I could just use the free notepad that's on there and not have to buy your app. Right? So is it a good idea to take something as simple as like a grocery list and try to build an app?
But there are still people who do that. Like,
Oh, sure there are, yeah.
the young people I see on like Study With Me content, they bought their iPad and they download the Notion app to
Okay.
make like planner.
Yeah.
Instead of going to buy planners. And make
Yeah.
I know, like,
Yeah.
it's costly, but they still do it.
Yeah, sure. They're dumb, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah. I'm going somewhere. Don't steal my thunder.
Yeah.
I'm going somewhere. I'm building a story.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
building the excitement.
It's just that
right?
I know people like they're
So I started off saying that, like computers are good at doing hard things. The easy things are, like you may as well just do them yourself, right? So like an app for a grocery list, that just doesn't work. Unless you come up with a revolutionary way to disrupt the grocery list market. Right? Is there a pain in grocery lists? What's the pain? I'm in Sobeys. And what happens?
didn't help you calculate it.
Did I have eggs? Did I put them on the list? I'm not sure. Butter, I'm not sure. I came without my list and I don't know if I need butter. You've been there, right? In the store. You're there and you're like, I think I need eggs. I think, right? So what if you come up with a revolutionary, big, hairy, scary way of doing it by mind control or telekinesis or something amazing, artificial intelligence, wrap-in delivery, like absolutely demolish grocery lists. It's a dumb, stupid idea. It's not worth anybody wasting their time on until it is. Okay? So what's this thing? What's this thing here? What's that? That's an Alexis or something, right? It's a Home, Google something. Might be an older. I just picked it because it was an easy picture, but you know what it is, right? You know the fastest growing sector in retail shopping is now? What's that? Louder, sorry.
Oh, she said AI.
AI, okay. Yes, AI and voice. Okay, so you're not making a list, right? The AI here in this thing that's sitting on your counter in your Google Spot, Home, Chrome, Apple AI, Alexa, Siri thing, right? Says, looks like I think you're almost out of eggs. Do you need some? Yep. Okay, they'll be here in 10 minutes. Boom, eggs in your house, right? And it's even more diabolical than that. Okay, so Amazon's got, is it Amazon with Alexa? Yeah, Amazon's got Alexa. So Alexa, I need some batteries. Oh, okay. I got some batteries on sale, $2.99. Do you want them? Yep. What batteries are they selling you? Are they selling the Duracell Energizer ones? Or are they selling you the Amazon branded batteries? They're selling you the Amazon branded batteries, yeah. Yeah, okay. So grocery lists are dumb. It's impossible until it's not, okay? Because someone applied this big, massive idea to the problem, okay? Dig down the problem. The problem is not making the list when you know you need it. The problem is not having the list when you need it, right? I'm in the store. Siri, do I have eggs at home? My watch, boom. Did it actually respond to me? I don't know. Sometimes it actually responds. It's scary. It's spooky like that. Yeah, so like artificial intelligence, telekinesis, like something, like absolutely revolutionize grocery lists. The same way that Uber revolutionized taxis, or the same way that Airbnb revolutionized staying, you know, like travel accommodations. Okay. Uh, 3:39. Okay. Okay. And I got about the same point this morning, so I'm just going to quickly cover this, and then we'll circle right back around. So why build an app? Well, we have technologies now that have things that they can do that they didn't do 5, 10, 30, 100 years ago. It gives better service. It solves a better problem. It saves you money. It saves you time. It gives you a competitive advantage over your competitor. It's portable. It's neat. It's cool. Okay. I bought this watch, my Apple Watch, sidebar. So I bought the watch. It was on sale. I bought it. I was like, I don't know if I need it. Like I bought the watch and I threw it under my bed for about a month because I figured I was going to take it back. Spur of the moment decision, oh, it's on sale. I bought it, right? So I said to myself, I had stopped wearing a wristwatch a decade or 2 or 15 years earlier at the point where I got my first flip phone. I was like, well, the phone's got the time on it. I don't need a watch. Stop wearing a watch. Phone's in my pocket. So I was like, do I need that? I don't know. So at one point I said, I'm going to count how many times a day I take my phone out of my pocket to check the time. It was like 105 or something. Like I realized I actually, I did what I just told you to do. I actually said, well, I think I don't, but I'm going to actually do some research here. Well, in the end, it was like, yeah, I'm pulling my phone out of my pocket a lot. So I was like, okay, I literally, it was a month. I literally dug it out from under the bed, opened it up. I begrudgingly put it on. I'm kind of an Apple fanboy tech. I didn't want to be the Apple fanboy tech boy thingy, the one people that, I know people point at me and make fun of me and stuff. I get that. But anyway, I eventually put it on and yeah, I got the time. But you know what else I got? I didn't even realize. I can pay for stuff. I guess I kind of knew, but I had no idea that being able to pay for things going click, click, tap would change my life. No idea, right? I've done this twice in my life. I've left home without my watch in my car down the road and was like, don't have my watch. I turned around and went home. Like, to turn around and going home, that means I really actually valued it, right? You know, the pain of it's just, who wants to dig in your pocket for your wallet and pull it out and then, yeah, who needs that, right? Much easier just to go click, click, tap. Change my life, right? So sometimes the problems aren't even apparent to you until you really think about it, okay? So how is the app better? Okay, well, phones are all about communication. So you've got this instant on connectivity to everything in the world, okay? And cameras have technology. Phones have technology. They used to sell point and shoot cameras. I used to sell them. I worked at a camera shop. I sold tons of $199, $150, $99 cameras, piles of them. Does anyone buy a $199 camera anymore? No, phones got rid of that. Your phone has a better camera in it than would ever have been available back in 1994 with a point and shoot camera. GPS mapping, GPS connectivity, know where you are at every time. The data, like mountains of data on your phone and connected over wireless, okay? And then you get to that designation of this thing called a killer app. Now, killer app is a phrase that they came up with back in the 80s to describe the reason you bought a computer, okay? Killer app. We don't really use it much now in the phone age, but it's still valid, still valid. So the first killer app, anyone know? It was a spreadsheet. Okay. Someone in the earlier thing said it must have been a word processor. No, like word processors weren't. You see, you could use the word processor, except that when you hit print, it came out on a dot matrix printer. You ever seen one of those cheap old printers at a bank or somewhere? You know, like, you know, who wants that, right? Word processing didn't take off until someone invented, well, Adobe invented PostScript and laser printing, learned how to drive a laser printing engine. So it was Excel. It wasn't Excel. It was VisiCalc. VisiCalc, that's what it was. Took a second. VisiCalc. Two guys that invented it were hippies. They invented it and they never bothered to patent it, right? They were like, oh, we'll just sell some diskettes here and there. Well, VisiCalc changed finance, okay? You know all those movies they had in the 80s? Again, I'm an 80s fanboy kid, so please excuse me that. But in the 80s where it was like, I'm trying to think of, what was it, Donald Douglas and, the other fella, Greed is Good. You know, the movie about the finances in the 1980s. And well, that all happened because of spreadsheets, right? You see, with a spreadsheet, some whiz kid could come in and say, and actually put the information in for this company and have it automatically spit out, oh, if I break it up, I could sell it this part for that and this part for that. It's worth more as pieces than the democratization of the information and the creation of a spreadsheet, okay, basically invented what we now know as modern Wall Street and the way things work today. There's no people working Wall Street anymore. I mean, not physically, there's no one on the floor, that's all computers and stuff. The next killer app would be in graphic design. Okay, so like graphic design, presses and paper, and all that. Those are massive institutions and infrastructure setups. After that, email. Okay, email is a reason to buy a computer. My mother, my sweet little old gray-haired mother, came to me one day and said, "Todd, can I get a computer?" And I was like, who are you? What did you do with my mother? Right? Like, you know, but see, her friends were getting email from their grandkids and pictures and, you know, and she wanted in too, right? So she jumped on the technology bandwagon. She didn't care about video games. She didn't care about recipe cards. But email, yeah, killer app. Like it pushed a whole pile of people into. And you get into the mobile age, you know, I'd probably put Facebook in that category, someone else. And this would actually be more of an international perspective, but WeChat. WeChat was a reason for, okay. WeChat never really hit here because SMS happened first-ish and, you know.
I think
WeChat is,
You mean WhatsApp?
oh, WhatsApp, yeah, WhatsApp, yes, WhatsApp, yeah.
I think we can put Google as a killer app because
Google's huge, not a killer app. When I say killer app, did anyone go out to buy a machine so they could use Google? Look, actually, like, now I'm not saying it's not massively important, but there really literally have only been a couple of what they call killer apps. Apps that, you know, that change the world and make someone buy a device. They make someone buy a device. So that's where we are here, we 3:47. So quickly, what I want to do is, just before I let everyone go, and I'm a little over time, but what I wanted to do is just briefly roll through, if I can go, actually let me do this here. Come on, share, screen. There we are. And I'm going to go to Teams, Battle Apps. Come on, homepage. So what you're going to do is you're going to download this PDF file. Okay. It's going to look something like this. You can all see that. So you're going to fill in each of these over the next 2 weeks. Okay. You could choose not to show up at all for the next 4 sessions and just send this in to me in 2 weeks. Perfect. Okay. But you're going to answer as many of these questions as possible. You're going to fill out a buyer profile. You're going to use these sheets. These are all there for you to use. And the more descriptive you are, and that's what's going to win this, is someone with a good, solid idea that does the work. Really describe. If I know what you're doing, if I can go, oh yeah, I get it, you've done well. So you'll fill all these things in. We'll discuss more of this in other sessions over the next 2 weeks. A couple of templates there to scribble in some drawings. At the end, there are some links. So for example, mock-ups. So I'm going to briefly just do this. I'm going to say mock-ups, okay, is here. And, okay, literally, you know, if you want a MacBook Pro and you want to put, where am I? I want to put a screeny thing on top of it, right? And I want a back button. Pull out a back button, and we'll put a back button there. Okay. Basically, you will be able to wireframe your idea. Okay. So you decide there's like 5 screens. Okay. 5 phones. Bing, bing, bing. Okay. What's on the first screen? Okay. Well, that's got a picture and a button. Great. Put a picture and a button there. Second screen, it's got a search field and a list of stuff. Great. Pull out a list of stuff, which is over here somewhere. There's a keyboard. You know, you want to put a keyboard on there. You want a message list. You know what I mean? Like, you can mock up the idea and illustrate what your idea is. Okay. Any questions online? Any questions here?
kind of competitive because you're only 2 apps.
It is a competition. Again, granted, even if you don't win some money, you've gone down the road to maybe being the next Airbnb. Those 2 guys couldn't program anything either. That wasn't their thing. Okay. So if you have any questions, I'll collect these sheets and I'll get the names of everyone online. 2 there, you'll have to go back to my recording. You should be added to the Teams list, the Teams group. If you aren't, I'll add you, just let me know. The sessions will be recorded, so they'll be available online. Okay. You can come in here, you can view them online, you can view the recordings later. So we'll have another session that gets more into the details of, well, how do I wireframe something? Or, you know, what are the steps that I need to do what kind of screens do I need? You know, what are more of the specifics of being able to build an application? And we'll cover those over the next 3 or 4 sessions. And then you guys can submit them and we'll maybe get together and have an awards night or something. Maybe we'll get some pizza and have everyone come back and do something like that. Good? Questions? Happy? Who thinks this is a complete waste of their time? Ankit, I saw you blink. Nice office, by the way. You're not even in that. You just made that up. That's a fake background. I was like, oh, he's in a night. Look at that office. He's styling.
Is it only for
Yes. You are a student. You are a former student.
oh yeah, I'm about to graduate. So.
Well, you got some money last time,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, could happen here too.
Learn from work.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Ankit, thank you. Piyush, thank you. Email me if you have any questions. I'll make sure you guys get the links for all the stuff.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Bye.